Well, hello, my little beauties. It's David Connolly here, still loaded with the flu, unfortunately. But I wanted to come on and say thanks for the comments pertaining to yesterday's video, which was all about this WordPress drama. Now, Jordix Boy left a comment 4 hours ago and said, I'm all in for WP Engine. WordPress is open source. That means WP Engine can take it, resell it, as far as I know, and they don't need to contribute anything back. I really wanted to respond to that comment because it's a comment that is perfectly valid, and I think it's a perspective that a lot of people have. So, to put you in the picture, I'm I'm really interested in this because I happen to be the founder of a framework that's hardly known at this point in time, but shares some of the technical features of WordPress. So what I'd like to do for this video is forget about things like trademarks, logos, names, and all of that stuff. Let's assume that we don't care about any of that stuff, and I'm not even sure if I do care. So I'm perfectly happy, at least for the purposes of this video, to assume that the name of my framework or whatever, or not mine, ours, pardon me, or WordPress, let's assume that these things have no value. We don't really care. And let's assume that we really, really care about open source. We love open source and we want people to share and all of that stuff. Fine. Assumption made. Good. Now, I said that there was a technicality. I want you to focus, forget about trademarks, logos, and everything. I want you to focus entirely on the following technicality. Now, I don't have WordPress on this computer, so I'll show you the Trongate version, and hopefully this will make sense. So this is the Trongate desktop app. It's probably completely redesigned by the time you watch this video. Who knows? I'm not pushing Trongate, right? I'm just showing you something. Now, let's imagine that, and I'll just reset this thing. Let's imagine that I decide to do some work on this application here, whatever it may be. You can see that it says Trongate when we have a new version that's available. I can obviously continue, ignore the update, or I can update the framework. Maybe it's a security patch or who knows what. But there you go, I've just updated the framework. Kind of easy. Now I'm going to create a new module, and for this, I'll browse the module market. Now again, this looks like I'm showing off Trongate. I'm not. We'll be over with this in just a second. But let's assume that I would like to have a news section. So I click in and I look at the screenshots and I say, oh, it's a wonderful, wonderful news section. There's a video and reviews. And I say, fine, I'll have that, and I get it, and this is free, right? So all of this is free, and I've just now downloaded this thing onto my application. This particular news module happens to have an SQL table, so I can run this module export wizard, and it says the following SQL file was found. Here is the SQL, and I can run that, and there we go. So this is my website. We're now on localhost, and if I go to the website address /news, wouldn't you believe it? We've now got a fantastic news section here. Now, again, I'm not trying to show off Trongate, although if I have, I'm delighted. But the point is that the type of system that I've just showed you there is also available on WordPress. It's just that they do it via a web interface, and at the moment at least, with Trongate, it happens via a desktop app interface. But in both situations, what we've got is a website. In the case of WordPress, it's wordpress.org. In the case of Trongate, it's the Trongate website itself, specifically the module market. So we've got these resources that people can access, perhaps via an admin panel, a desktop app, whatever. Just think of it as an API endpoint, right? And people can access those API endpoints and they can say, I'll take that code, I'll take that. Oh, I'll have this update, I'll do this, I'll do that, and I'll have one of them as well, just like I've demonstrated, okay? Now, again, we're assuming that we love the open source community. We're assuming that we're happy for people to use names, logos, anything they want, who cares? The challenge is, the moment you get into the business of hosting resources, as I've just demonstrated, and remember when I clicked on news and you had the little wheel thing that was turning? Well, at that point, the thing is being downloaded, and that's using up bandwidth and, of course, the actual space on a hard drive somewhere, right? This stuff has to be hosted. It has to be maintained and all the rest of it. Now, let's you and I agree that, at least for the purposes of this conversation, I don't care about people using the Trongate name. I don't care about them using the logo. I don't even care if they want to pretend they're me. But the problem is, whilst I may be delighted for, lots of developers to use the thing, who knows, maybe I'll sell them a t-shirt or something in the future. The problem is, if a massive company with a market cap of over $1 billion comes along and says, we're going to start selling Trongate hosting, let's say, and if they then give all of their customers access to the very API endpoints that are currently hosted on the Trongate site, in the case of WordPress, hosted with wordpress.org, that means that they're going to be taking a lot of resources. And in fact, in the case of Trongate, it would certainly be enough to put the framework under. So put yourself in my shoes. Imagine you'd spent 5 years, and I'm not some super rich guy or anything here, right? Imagine you'd spent 5 years building this thing, and you're like, great, we've got all of this stuff working. Maybe you present this stuff via a desktop app or via an admin panel. It all amounts to, you have this resource where you serve code that people can download, and a company comes along and they say, chez moi. I believe that's French for that's mine. And they send massive amounts of traffic to this resource. And because hosting is not free, you have to pay for it. And they do not give you a solitary penny. All right, now I've checked this out on ChatGPT, on Grok, and one or two other places. Pardon me. And it would appear that the annual revenue from WP Engine is, let's see, $400 million. $400 million. Now, we're clearly not talking about a guy with a web development company who has a reseller account, right? We are talking the biggest league imaginable. And this is huge. This stuff makes... Do you have any idea of the scale that we're talking about here? There is nothing coming close in terms of, you look at all of those other JavaScript frameworks and stuff like that. It's all chicken pellets. So this is the big league we're talking about. However, don't be too impressed by the monetary value there of 400 million. Think about the bandwidth that this represents. Think about all of the instances when their customers are downloading resources from that WordPress.org website. There are two things about this that amaze me and astonish me. The first thing is, how can WordPress.org absorb all of that bandwidth? I mean, if it happened to me, I have a great hosting company. I have an arrangement in place. They don't charge me, and there's a pie chart I look at every once in a blue moon with the amount of downloads and bandwidth available. It barely moves, you know. So I'm okay, right? However, if a company like this were to do a number on me and start sending all of that traffic, downloading all of the stuff, all the resources, here's what would happen. My little pie chart that I look at once every 3 months would be at 100%. I'd probably get a message from the hosting company saying, look, we can't do this. We're going to need to ask you for some revenue or something. And I wouldn't have it. I would not have it. And many years from now, maybe you'd come and visit my grave, and it would say on my grave, well, the guy was a complete miserable failure, but at least he held up the values of the open source community. And hopefully you'd all give me 3 verses of, for he's a jolly good fellow. But do you see, my friends, that when you go into a project with every good intention, you say, right, keep the name, keep the logo. I've even done a video on YouTube called Trongate is yours, and I literally say that. Take the name, take the logo, care factor 0, right? I am the most open source guy in the universe. But don't you realize that by being like that, you open yourself up to this type of thing? And I believe that this has the potential to send, certainly a framework like Trongate, if it ever became popular, this would have the potential to send the thing under. So that's one of the things that astonishes me. The other thing that astonishes me is this. How can the owners of WP Engine not appreciate the technicalities of the argument that I've just made? That being the case, why aren't they sending some revenue to accommodate for all of the massive amounts of bandwidth and other resources that they're using? This actually has nothing to do with the logo or the name, I think. I think it's just to do with resources. Why, oh why, are they not contributing? If it was me, I wouldn't be, I've saw a few people saying that the gentleman, Matt, is it Mullenweg, said that he's not conducted himself in a savoury manner. Well, I tell you what, I don't think I would be conducting myself in a particularly savoury manner. I certainly wouldn't be saying, oh, well, you can put in hours per day if you want. You can come to the coding camp. No, I'd be saying, hey, guys, look at this invoice from the hosting company. I'm getting killed here. You're going to have to help, It's one of these things where I feel as if the developers are being played. Because when I see developers saying things like, well, it's open source, we love open source. I'm an open source. They can do whatever they want with it. And they side with this massive company with an annual revenue of 400 million who do not donate a solitary penny, as far as I can tell. When people do that, developers do that, I think they're well-intentioned, but I think they're being played. And I'll end with a thought here. I happen to have a friend. I've not seen him for a while, but I know he's watching. And he is an extremely successful software developer. He's also extremely mysterious. He won't let me mention his name. But I have a feeling that I know what he would say if he were here. My incredibly successful and outrageously mysterious software developer friend would say the following. He would say, that's the problem with open source.